Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about sound design. So I like starting off with questions, right? So here's something for you to think about. Why is sound design or audio design important? Think about that for a second. Why is it important? Here's some reasons, right? So in digital media, we have things like radio, television, film, audio media, video games, internet media. Could be like social media, podcasts, things like that, right? They all have audio aspects to them, right? So yeah, so audio is really, really everywhere. In fact, you're listening to audio right now, listening to me speak. So in audio-visual media, audio is at least half the story. Some could argue it's even more than half the story. And then in just pure audio media, it's the full story. Sound is everywhere. Let's talk about my friend Kelly Baker here. He goes under the handle of the angry filmmaker, right? This is who he is, the angry filmmaker. He's an independent film producer. He's an author. This is one of his books. But before that, he was a sound designer and editor and did all post production audio work uh, for many Gus Van Sant films, My Own Private Idaho, Finding Forrester, Good Will Hunting, right? He's done a lot of films, both independent and major features. And he always goes with, like, hey, if you're wanting to work in media, audio, you can always find work. There's always a demand for audio, especially if you're good with it. That's how important audio is, right? And not a lot of people do it. There are many, many jobs that deal with audio, right? At least half the digital media jobs are in or have something to do with audio. This is how important audio is, right? Great. So let's talk about what is a sound designer. What is a sound designer? You can think about that for a minute. What is a sound designer? Because we are going to be sound designers on this project, right? This module. So, what is a sound designer? This is from Wikipedia. We all know and love Wikipedia. If you don't like it, you can change it, right? It's a joke. So, sound designer is the process of specifying, acquiring, manipulating, or generating audio elements. Once again, specifying, acquiring, manipulating, or generating audio elements. You're picking something out, you're gathering it, you're manipulating it in some way, or you're actually creating audio elements, right? Sound design. It is employed in a variety of disciplines, including filmmaking, television production, theater, sound recording, and reproduction, live performances, sound art, post production, radio, and video game development. Sound design most commonly involves the manipulation of previously composed or recorded audio, such as sound effects and dialogue. In some instances, it may also involve the composition or manipulation of audio to create the desired effect or mood. A sound designer is one who practices the art of sound design. So we are going to be doing a lot of this unit, right? We are going to be specifying, acquiring, manipulating, and generating audio elements. We are going to be sound designers. So here are some basic sound design concepts, right? This goes along with the other design concepts we have covered in this class, right? It's all, being a designer is very similar. First one, you're designing for your audience, right? So who's your audience? What do they want? What do they need? Right? The design has to support the message. So does the music and sound effects and mix support the message? Right? Is it going on? Like, let's take a dark, moody scene in a movie, right? There's a killer on the loose. It's nighttime. Maybe it's raining, right? What are you going to need to make it dark and moody? Well, if it's raining, you need sounds of rain, right? Maybe you need the breathing of the protagonist. Right? Maybe you need music that supports it with like long, drawn out strings of suspense, right? You probably don't want, happy music there, right? Not having rain would make it sound weird. This is supporting the message. This is what this means, right? You got to make sure that if there's something making noise, that noise is there and it's fitting the overall mood of whatever you're doing. Design has a reason. So, does every aspect of your design have a reason, right? You gotta have a reason. Use logic as a designer. We've been through this a lot in this class, right? Liking it and it's creative are not reasons, right? You got to have some sort of logic behind it, just like another design we've covered. So what is a sound designer? A sound designer supports the story ideas of the client, main artist, or director, right? You're a supporting person as a sound designer, just like any other designer that we've talked about in class, right? You're supporting the story ideas of the client, main artist, or director, depending upon who you're looking for. So you should be less concerned about showing off your skills, your artistic skills, and more concerned with telling the story based on what the client wants. It's always about what the client wants when it comes to design, okay? And you should never argue for your artistic ideas, right? That's a sound designer. I've known plenty of designers that argue their own artistic ideas against the client, that may go against the client, thinking that they know better, and they lose their job, right? They lose that client because when someone hires you, they're hiring you to get their vision out. They're not hiring to get your vision out. It's something very important to remember. So how does a sound designer work? Well, they work in kind of two areas, right? There's the conceptual, where you use imagination and come up with creative ideas to support the story and fix any problems. And then there's the technical, right, which uses the technical skills to create the conceptual ideas. We are doing both in this module. Right? We're going to be coming up with creative ideas to help tell the story. We're going to have to fix problems, right? And then we're going to have technical stuff where we're actually learning software that's going to help us do this, right? In fact, we're learning the technical even by going through this lecture. So how does a sound designer tell a story? Well, the main thing, they work with the client or director or whoever is hiring them, right, to figure out the message or the story, what is needed, right? They discover creative ways to orally tell the story, right, through the ears, orally. They create, collect, and arrange audio clips, and then they mix the audio clips together, right? Collect, create, arrange audio clips, and then they mix it all together. That's very similar to what we have up here, which is specifying, acquiring, manipulating, and generating audio elements. So a sound designer's job, what is this, right? A sound designer is responsible for all audio that is on film or video. This includes dialogue, ADR, musical scores, sound effects, right? Not to be confused with sound FX, which are things like reverb and stuff, which we'll cover. It's kind of the same name for both things, so it can get confusing. Foley, and mixing and mastering audio files. And this is where we're going to pick up on the next lecture.